Hello and welcome back to another week of Sambo iRacing. We're back in the Ligier JS P320, the LMP3, this time at Long Beach for yet another track guide. Now, if you're going to run this in the open setup series and you want to race the exact setup being driven by Gianni Lutzu around this track guide, you can go to our website, sambosetups.com, or you can go to our Patreon page. There are links to both in the description. Also, if you're wanting to chase a time that is slightly slower than this, my own version of this guide was 1 minute 15.2, but I failed to save the replay file, so Johnny jumped in and he's actually going to show you how a proper driver does it. So here we are, smashing it down the main straight, and it's sort of a bendy straight, but enough of that. Right, we're going to start braking, coming up here at just after the 400 board, all the way down to second gear, smoothly back on the gas. Now we're looking for this yellow line on the brakes again to about 45%. If you don't understand where I'm meaning, I will show you in the breakdown lap. So it's the end of the fencing there, and it's just before we get to those ad hoardings as we go through turn 4. We're going to head over to the right-hand side, and we'll start braking just between the 300 and the 200, down to second gear, smoothly back on the gas again, back over to the left-hand side, and now again, just before the 200, on the brakes to about 45%, again down to second gear. Now, I actually spent 2 hours doing a guide for this. I did a 15.2 on the brakes just between the 400 and the 300. And now we're going to get lightly on the brakes, just feathering it round here, giving ourselves a nice wide entry into the final corner. And now we're just powering our way over to the start-finish line. Yeah, I did a 15.2, but then I closed iRacing and I didn't save it. So I called up Gianni and asked him to do the lap for me, and he's taken half a second off and done a 14.7. But if you're wanting to chase someone that is actually more chaseable, 15.2. And anyway, we've got the breakdown lap coming up next. Right, breakdown lap, and I will try and show you the markers that I was using. And they're pretty much the same ones Gianni was. So our first braking marker, we've got the 400 coming up and the 300 just after it, as you can see. And we get on the brakes just as we get alongside the 400. So as you can see, starts on the brakes now as soon as the 400's disappeared behind that quarter pillar. Wipes all that speed off and starts the turn in midway between the 100 and the 200. Doesn't want to take too much curb here on the inside, but starts getting back on the gas nice and smoothly just ahead of the curb. Exit nice and wide. Johnny's always going to be right up against the wall, so you might want to give yourself just a little bit more safety net. Next braking marker is, well, basically he's already started to get on the brakes. For me, I was using the start of this yellow line, so Johnny's actually on the brakes slightly ahead of where I was, but he's not braking as hard and he's carrying the speed. So he gets up to a peak of 45%, drops it down to first and gets nice and tight to that roundabout or traffic circle or whatever you guys call it in your own countries. Next braking marker is going to be the end of the dark tall fencing here on the left-hand side. So as you see, just as he gets alongside it, it's on the brakes and only up to about 25%. Quick trail off and starts picking back up. Again, he's avoiding taking too much curb here in the LMP3. And the final bit of braking, so it's this last light bit of concrete on the left-hand side before the ad hoarding. So as he gets alongside there, on the brakes up to about 35%, trails that off and really cuts this corner, as you can see. So he's just totally ignoring it, going over it, and the entire right-hand side of the car is to the right of the corner of the curbs. Excuse me. Right, coming into turn 6, we're going to be braking between the 300 and the 200 coming up. So as you can see, still ahead of the 200s, on the brakes up to his maximum of sort of 62% he was. Trails that off, starts picking back up on the gas at the apex. Nice and smooth. Back over to the left-hand side. We're now going to be braking between the 300 and the 200 on the left-hand side. So there you go, that's on the brakes. Up to about 50%, trails that off and then gets back on the gas just ahead of the corner. It's nice and tight to the right-hand and left-hand walls. Some people often ask me, are you able to do this in an entire race? I'm not, but he is. Right, midway between the 300 and the 400, as you can see, hits on the brakes up to about 65%. Short trail off, doesn't want to take any of that curbing, any of the raised curbs there. back on the gas, and now as soon as we go underneath this bridge that you can see the shadow of, so he gets on the brakes only up to about 10%, and now just is feathering the throttle, and then starts getting on the brake once he's trying to get his left-hand tyres up and onto this curbing, and wants a really wide entry, trails it off, and then starts picking back up on the gas. You always feel like you're bogging down there, but it is just a very tight corner. And then over and across the line he goes in a 14.7. So we got one final version coming up next with the driving line on, but without me talking. Enjoy.